Hi, I'm Kelly Vaughn, founder and CEO of the Taproom. Today, I'm talking to you about being your own boss, how to start a career in freelance development. We're going to be going over 5 things today. First off, how to set yourself up for success. Then we're going to talk about establishing your rates. Next, finding and signing on your first client so you can start freelancing. Then we're going to talk about managing the project effectively and talk about some common client situations you might run into. And lastly, how to scale your freelance business. Again, my name is Kelly Vaughn. I'm the founder and CEO of the Taproom and author of Start Freelancing Today. I left my contact information here if you have any questions about freelancing or anything in this talk. So every freelance career starts somewhere. For mine, it started when I was 14 years old. I was a designer and developer, really tired of building websites for MySpace and Neopets, and I wanted to build a website for a company. And thankfully, a family friend owned a business called Taylor's Hunting Supplies, and he asked me to build a website for them. So I delivered on the project, and I received my payments, which was this t-shirt. I still have it. It is missing a sleeve. It's been used as a dust rag for many years, which is why it looks the way it does, but pretty cool to still have my first dollar. And anyway, my aim here is to help you start freelancing and hopefully be paid more than a t-shirt for your work. So first off, we need to get you set up for success. And in doing so, we need to talk about why you should freelance in the first place. Most commonly, it's a way to earn some extra income on the side or completely replace your entire full-time income. If you want to work, evenings or weekends on a side project here or there, or just explore another area of interest, that's a good reason to freelance. In my case, I wanted to quit working for the government and start doing my own thing full-time, so I replaced my full-time income. You can also break out of the 9-to-5 hustle, which is a really nice perk. You get to be your own boss. You get to set your own schedule, so work when you want. You get to choose your own clients, which is the most glorious thing. And you get to set your own rates. So the first thing you'll need to do is name your business. You have 2 options. You can use your own name, or you can use a unique business name. If you go the your own name route, like I did, I was Kelly Vaughn Creative, it's a little bit more personal. It's about you as the freelancer, and it also makes you more accessible to smaller businesses. Quite often, small businesses like to work one-on-one and know who it is they're working with, so they're going to choose to work with a freelancer over a larger agency. It also builds your own personal brand. So your freelance business is an extension off of your overall brand, especially if you're present on social media, and it's a good way to actually help bring in additional work as well. The flip side of this is using a unique business name. So one of the major reasons why you choose this over using your own name is if your name is common. My name's Kelly Vaughn. It's not super common. In fact, as far as web presence goes, there's somebody an actress who played in one of the Batman movies. There's a country artist. There's actually a dentist that lives about 30 minutes from me, also named Kelly Vaughn. But that's really it. So in terms of trying to rank on Google and think about the SEO implications, Kelly Vaughn's a pretty safe bet if I wanted to go that route. If your name is John Smith, I'm sorry, but you're going to have a little bit more difficulty ranking on Google for this specific reason. So might be a good idea to consider going the unique business name. Other reasons, if your name is difficult to spell or difficult to pronounce, it could be more difficult for clients to find you or remember your name. And it's also easier to scale your business if you go the unique business name route. This is important for me because when I wanted to start hiring on employees, it's more difficult to find somebody who wants to work for Kelly Vaughn versus working for the Taproom, which is what I ended up rebranding to be. And lastly, you can sign on larger clients with a unique business name. That's not to say you can't sign on large clients with your own name, but for the same reason why using your own personal name for your freelance business makes you more accessible to smaller clients, using a unique business name makes you more accessible to larger clients. One last thing to think about, is the domain available? If the domain's not available for your firstname.lastname.com or some variation of that, consider going the unique business name route instead. Next, we got to find your niche. Yes, I said niche and not niche. Personal choice. I'll say specialize. Why specialize? First off, clients are looking for an expert. They want to know that you know how to do what you say you can do, and that when they hand you their money, you're going to deliver on the project. You can also spend more time working in this specific area, so you're going to be increasing your own abilities, and as a result, becoming more efficient with your time as well. And what's really nice is the more you specialize, the more you can charge too. So how do you actually find your niche? First off, write down what you're good at. Whether it's front-end development, iOS development, maybe you're really good at accessibility or user experience, whatever it is, write it down. This is a really good place to figure out where to start, where you're good at, because hopefully you also enjoy doing that as well. Which brings me to number 2, write down your interests. Even if it's something you don't feel like you've yet mastered, what have any of us mastered anyway? Write it down if it's of interest to you to offer as a service. You can always add it as a complementary service to your main service offering if it's something you want to get more experience in, but not base your entire business around. For example, I'm really good at building Shopify stores, not so great at email marketing, so I offer email marketing as a complementary service in conjunction with doing the Shopify theme development as well. And keep in mind, your interests are going to change over time, and it's important to really follow your interests because you're less likely to lead to burnout. If you're just going after something because that particular specialty makes a lot more money, it's like going and deciding to be a heart surgeon. If you have zero interest in becoming a doctor, you're going to burn out. So really focus on what you're actually interested in doing. And lastly, determine what types of businesses you want to serve. This could be small versus large businesses. It could be particular regions. Maybe you want to help women run businesses in particular, or maybe you're interested in certain verticals like health and wellness or apparel or technology. Whatever it is, write these down and you can basically build out a picture of who you want to serve and why you want to serve those groups. So who are you more likely to hire? Somebody who says, I'm a freelancer, or somebody who says, I'm a freelance web developer who helps small e-commerce businesses improve their store's user experience. You know exactly what services I'm offering, and so you're more likely to hire me as opposed to general, I'm a freelancer. This kind of builds out your personal brand statement, and it's really important to make this shine through all the things that you do. Next, establishing your rates. This is one of the most common questions I get from people who want to start freelancing. What should I charge? The answer is, it depends. It depends on a lot of things. First off, where you live or who you're marketing to in particular. So what people tend to charge in the Philippines is vastly different from what people tend to charge in, say, New York City or San Francisco. And keeping this in mind when you're deciding who you want your target client to be, you're going to need to adjust your prices accordingly as well. Analyze your market for your skills too. Take into consideration how many years of experience you have, so what level of complexity you can get on the projects, and also just the skill set in general. Some skills pay more than others. It's just the nature of work. And lastly, ask other freelancers what they charge. There are so many freelancers out there who are more than happy to say, hey, this is generally what I charge, this is my hourly rate, whatever it might be, just so you can have that kind of gauge of where to start. So how do you calculate your hourly rate? First off, calculate how much you'd like to make per year freelancing. Do you want to make an extra $10,000 a year, $20,000 a year, maybe $100,000 a year? If you want to replace all of your income, maybe make even more. Next, you're going to add in any expenses you'll incur as a freelancer. This includes credit card transaction fees. They are a cost of doing business. It's not something that's meant to be to charge an extra, say, 3% to take a credit card payment. Please treat it as a cost of doing business. Other expenses could be a co-working membership for a place to work, additional equipment you need to do your business, or any monthly or annual costs to any kind of software that you'll need to conduct your work as well. You're then going to divide this number by the number of billable hours you'll freelance per year. Now, it's important to note, not every hour you work is billable. You have administrative tasks. Those are going to be your marketing, communicating with potential clients, sending out contracts and proposals, having those phone calls with potential clients. There's just so many things that don't count towards your actual billable hours. So I like to say at least 25% of the work you do, you cannot bill for. Some people say it's up to 40%. It varies. I'm just going with 25% for this. It's a little bit easier math. So let's go through an example of what this hourly rate would be. Let's say I want to make $10,000 my first full year of freelancing. I estimated my expenses to be approximately $2,000. So add those two numbers together and you'll get $12,000. I need to make a total of $12,000 in my first year of freelancing. I intend to freelance approximately 5 hours a week, and I want to work 48 weeks out of the year. So you multiply 5 by 48 and you get to 240 hours. Now remember, 25% of those hours are not billable, so remove those out of there and you get to 180 hours. Then you divide $12,000 divided by 180 hours and you see an hourly rate of about $67 per hour. Probably could have chosen some numbers that come to like $50 an hour or $100 an hour, but this is more reality. Again, this is just a guide. This is not the absolute rule. It's just something, a tool that I found to be kind of useful for calculating out what your hourly rate might want to be. Which brings me to another topic, types of pricing. So we talked about hourly rate. It's simple. You are paid per hour of work. If you complete 6 hours of work and your hourly rate is $15 per hour, you're going to get paid 6 times 15. I should have done this math. Whatever it is. $90 an hour, I hope. Next, you have your day rate. Crap, is it $90 an hour? Yes, it is. $90 an hour. Okay. Next, you have your day rate. This is when you're paid a fixed rate for a full day, regardless of the number of hours worked. Sometimes I see people do a weekly rate instead. This means that you're dedicating all of your time, either for that day or for that week, to one individual client. If your day rate is $300, you'll get paid $300 whether you spent 5 hours working or 10 hours working. Although, one caveat to this is I do see some people add an overtime rate to the day rate. If they tend to work like over 10 hours, anything over that is like time and a half or something like that. Kind of like overtime for working for a company. Next, project rate. This one's really common, like hourly rate. This is where you charge a flat fee for the project. So whether it's a $3,000 project will take you 6 hours or 6 days to complete, you're getting paid $3,000. Clients really like this one because they know exactly how much they're going to be being charged for a specific project or specific work that needs to be done. It can be a little bit tricky to offer project-based rates if you're not sure how long tasks take. Even now, with freelancing for several years, I still mess this up. I will occasionally spend way too long working on a project and end up having like an estimated hourly rate after the fact of $5 per hour when my hourly rate is $150 an hour. The last one I want to talk about is value-based pricing. Now this one's a little bit trickier to understand, but it's super, super, super important. And this is where you charge based on the perceived value of the project. So to give you an example, we have Company A and Company B. Company A is a mom and pop shop. They make, let's say, $250,000 a year. They don't have any employees. It's just the two of them. Company B is a mid-sized company. Maybe they have 50 employees, 100 employees, and they're doing $20 million a year. They both need a website. Are you going to charge Company A and Company B the same amount for that website? According to value-based pricing, the answer is no. Because if you're both delivering, let's say, the same website, Company B is going to make more money because they're already larger from that work, and so the perceived value of that project is higher. And as a result, you should charge more for the same work for Company B than you would Company A. Again, value-based pricing is pretty difficult to get right, and it's kind of difficult to understand the full concept around it and how you come up with those numbers. I highly recommend the book Pricing Creativity by Blair Enns for this. All right, we have established our rates, so let's actually find a client and sign them on. First thing you need to do is build a portfolio. Drop everything before you're hunting for clients. Focus on building a portfolio. This is going to build credibility. It's going to show off your personality as a freelancer, and it's going to help clients see what kind of work you've done before. So first off, include an about page. Again, let your personality shine through here. Let people know who you are, what your own personal interests are as well. I see some people like to include a picture of themselves on here to add, another level of personality to this page. Next, include your resume and examples of work. Now, the resume is an optional thing. Mainly, you just want to explain this is the experience I have doing this. So a lead who visits your website knows that you actually have experience doing this, as opposed to just saying you do. Examples of work, really important. Clients love case studies. They want to see that there's going to be a return on their investment. If you have any numbers to share, let's say you decrease their page speed by X% or you increase their sales by Y%, share those numbers as long as you have permission to do so. And lastly, get testimonials from previous work. If you don't have testimonials, it's fine. But most importantly, if you don't have examples of work because you're just getting started, put on projects that you've already done before just for fun, just so leads can see the type of work that you've done before. Next, start writing a blog. This blog serves two purposes. One, it shows off your expertise because you are proving that you know what you're talking about and what you can do. And second, it's really great for SEO. It's a really good way for people to discover your work and what you can do. In my case, this is for the Taproom, we have a blog we post every 2 weeks about something related to e-commerce, naturally, because that's what we do. We get a lot of leads because people find our blog posts and see that we're experts in what we talk about. So highly recommend starting to write a blog. And lastly, add a contact page. You want to make it as easy as possible for potential clients to find you and contact you. So add a form on there, add your email address. If you want to offer your phone number up, you can do that. I personally am very anti giving my phone number away to anybody at all. I have all my calls via Zoom. You can use a tool like Calendly to let people schedule a call with you, and you can just use Zoom or Google Hangouts or Meet or whatever it's called to actually conduct that call. Point being, make it easy for potential clients to get in touch with you so that you can actually sign them on as clients. And one final point I want to make, you don't need to build a custom website for your portfolio. This is especially important for developers. There's this pressure to do so. It is helpful if you don't have any other work examples. Your portfolio exists as a work example on its own, but there's nothing wrong with using something like Squarespace to build your website. All right, so we have a portfolio. Now we need to market our services. First off, social media is a really, really, really strong tool for finding work. It's actually where I got my start as a freelancer, not counting the Taylor's Hunting Supplies t-shirt, but, further on in my life. And it's the whole reason why I actually have the Taproom today. So both Twitter and Facebook are really great resources for finding leads. Follow other freelancers, follow other business owners, have those kinds of conversations, and so you can start to form these relationships with other freelancers, for example, and you can trade leads. It happens all the time. I see it all the time. Facebook groups as well. There are Facebook groups for communities of freelancers, and you can join those, and I see leads shared in those too. LinkedIn, you can find leads on LinkedIn. I personally don't like LinkedIn, but I use it anyway, so I'm just leaving that one off the list. Talking about cold emailing, does it work? It can. Is it tricky? Absolutely. So if you're going to be reaching out to businesses directly, make sure you're offering value up front as to why they should even consider entertaining the idea of having you, say, rebuild their website. Reach out to them and tell them, hey, love your brand, something personal about the business, because you don't want it to be like a unique or a complete form, like templated form letter, and explain why what you're offering will actually be of benefit to them. Let's say they run an e-commerce business and you want to build them an app. It's going to help them generate more sales. Really popular in the apparel industry in particular, if you're curious. It does work. It's tricky to get right. A lot of times the close rate is very, very, very low, but if you want to reach out to specific businesses because you're very interested in working with them, it doesn't hurt. Just send them an email, reach out. Next, attend events. We're not really attending events right now because there's a pandemic, and that's why you're listening to this presentation instead of me talking in front of you. But events are a really good way to network and, again, connect with other freelancers and potentially other business owners so you can exchange those leads. Somebody knows somebody who knows somebody who needs a website. So make those connections. It's really important. But most importantly, practice your pitch. You want to be able to clearly explain who you are, what you offer, and what your unique value proposition is. Why should they go with you over somebody else? One final point. external freelancer websites like Fiverr and Upwork. Are they worth it? I do see people have success with them, but it's important to note that it tends to be a race to the bottom with the pricing, first of all, because you're competing with people from all over the world, charging all different kinds of rates, and a lot of people tend to go to these websites and see somebody charging, let's say, $150 for a website when you're charging $5,000 or whatever it is, and it can be difficult to sign on a client that way. It can happen, though, and it's a good way to start to build your portfolio at least. Point being, don't work for free. Even if you want to start on one of these platforms, I strongly recommend building up some kind of base on your own outside of these freelancing sites so you're not dependent on them for future work. So let's go through the lead process a little bit. First off, do your research, especially before you get on a phone call with a lead. Make sure you understand some basic background knowledge of the company. Read through what it is that they shared with you, that they have, whatever the trouble is that they're experiencing. And this really helps to show that you really do care about the success of the brand. It'll also help you prepare some niche specific questions for the questionnaire, which is my next point, build a questionnaire. So this questionnaire will help you basically turn all of your questions into some sort of a template so you know what to ask every lead that comes in and you're not missing any details. I break this into 3 different types of questions: qualifying questions, scoping questions, and closing questions. Your qualifying questions are going to be based around the deadline, the budget, and prioritization. So when do they need this work done by? Are they actually prioritizing this project, or is it kind of lower on the priority list? And lastly, what is their budget? I'll let you in on a secret. Everyone has a number. Everyone has a number in mind. So if they're like, I'm not really sure what my budget is, suggest some numbers. If you suddenly say, this is actually going to cost about $300,000, and like, I don't have $300,000 to spend on this, well, clearly they have some kind of number in mind. So keep on prying, keep on pushing until you get some kind of idea of what this is going to cost. You want to make sure it's worth your time and it's worth their time as well. Next, scoping questions. This is really the meat of the conversation that you're having with the lead. So this is where you're getting a full understanding of the problem at hand and what potential solutions might work best in this scenario. Ask as many questions as you need here. There's no such thing as too many questions in this case. You want to make sure you have a really solid understanding of the scope of work before you get to the proposal stage, because you definitely don't want to be off base when you present that proposal and it's completely not what they were looking for. And lastly, closing questions. So these are going to be more, when are you planning on making a decision, and do you need anything from me in order to make a decision? Or also, do you need anything from them in order to put together that proposal? Let's say, in our case, like we migrate merchants from one platform to another, or over to Shopify specifically, and we'll need migration numbers, like how many customer accounts and how many products and how many collections, and basically make sure you ask those questions up front so you know how to put together that proposal you need for the client. Once you're done with that phone call, send them a follow-up email. I see this missed so often, and it's such an easy thing to do. This follow-up email, you're just recapping 3 things. What is just a super brief description of what their business is, then talk about what their pain point is, why they come to you in the first place to do this work, and then lastly, a general solution of what you plan to do, like we're going to build you a new website, or we're going to run an audit of your site for accessibility. It doesn't have to be super detailed. The point being is just like a general idea of this is what your goal is. So you can say, if this looks good, let me know, and I'll go ahead and get your proposal ready for you. That way you're kind of covering your bases again before you get to the proposal stage, and you're not spending all kinds of time writing up a proposal. That's not actually what they're looking for. And lastly, get that proposal turned around to the client, ideally within 3 business days. You want to keep things moving along. So what belongs in your proposal? First off, the project overview. You know that email you just sent to the lead? Copy paste it. There's your project overview. You're going over the background of the company, the problem, and the solution. That's it. Then the investment. Itemize your work or give one overall cost. You have 2 options here. Automizing can kind of turn your proposal into a bit of a menu of sorts, letting your client pick and choose, or letting the lead pick and choose what they want. Not really the most ideal situation, but just giving one overall cost for the work will leave the client saying, well, why is it costing this much? So kind of meeting them in the middle and giving the cost, but also breaking down what's included in that cost will kind of help them, guide them to that decision. It's also helpful to offer options. So you can offer different tiers on your proposal saying, here's the most basic package, here's the most expensive package, and the middle one is really the one they're going, or you want them to choose there. So this is called anchoring. You can set the top project or the top package to be well above what you're aiming for. If they sign on to that one, great, but the goal is to make that middle price look more attractive because it's not that high price. So offer options, really helpful. Next, timeline. How long is the project going to take to complete? When are they going to have the deliverables done by? Make sure that's outlined in the proposal as well. And lastly, next steps. Do they need to sign the proposal? Do they need to have a follow-up call with you? Whatever it is, make sure that's really clear in the proposal as well. I recommend using a tool like FreshBooks or PandaDoc or Productize to actually build out these proposals. It's just a little bit more professional, and you can also create templates so it speeds up the process of building these proposals. All right, talking about the magic email here. Now, this is one of my favorite tools to use. This is when you send the proposal and the lead just goes silent. They're not responding to you and you want some kind of answer from them. So I like to send them this email, and basically what this does is, honestly, I don't know. It triggers something in them to either respond and say, we signed on with somebody else, or, oh, I completely forgot, let's get a call scheduled to go over next steps. Or I guess they can still not respond, but this really does help. So this is basically, after you've followed up with them a few times, send them this email here. And it's magic for a reason. It works. I highly recommend using it. All right, we're going to quickly go through how to manage the project effectively. Before you get started, send a contract to the client. This is going to be just outlining, here's what I'm delivering on, here's what you owe me. Contracts vary from region to region. They vary culturally. Go by whatever makes the most sense in your region for how the contract should be structured. I highly recommend reaching out to an attorney to actually draft the contract for you. Get a deposit before you start any work as well. So whether you want to get 100% upfront, 50% upfront, or some amount, get something upfront before doing any kind of work. I recommend using something like QuickBooks or FreshBooks for your accounting, just so it's easy to keep track of all of that. And lastly, do you have everything you need to successfully execute on a project? If you're missing any kind of content or images, make sure you get that before you're setting deadlines, or else they can just mess everything up. So talking project management tools. I don't recommend corresponding with clients via email. It's very easy to lose track of emails. It's easy to miss things. We all get inundated with so many emails per day. So I recommend using some kind of project management tool. I personally use Basecamp. You can use Asana or Trello, or there are many others out there as well. Basically, what you're looking for is a message board so you can communicate with a client, separate projects so you can separate out the different client work from one client to the next, and a to-do list with scheduled deadlines. So just going over some common client problems here. First off is scope creep. This is by far the most common problem you're going to experience. Whenever this happens, basically this is where things get added to the overall scope of work that wasn't originally in the project, and therefore it's pushing out the deadline or it's costing you more money. Whenever a client asks me for something that's not in the scope of work, I say, thanks for bringing this to my attention. Would you like me to provide an estimate for this? They'll respond in one of three ways. 1 is yes, 2 is no, and 3 is, isn't this already included in the scope of work? For number 3, get on a phone call with them, address what's in scope and what's out of scope. For the other 2, pretty clear answer. You either get more work or you're not wasting your time doing unpaid work. Keep in mind you're also a victim of your own scope creep. As developers, we do this a lot. We'll be like, oh, we built this, but I know I could do this better, so let me just redo it. Client's not paying you to do that. You're wasting your time. Address it afterwards if you want, but just keep the project moving along and keep in mind that you are a victim to your own scope creep. 3 more, just really quick ones here. You can't seem to please the client is needy, and the client won't pay. All of these have the same general idea. Be transparent, don't get defensive, have conversations with the client as soon as you can, and in terms of client not paying, follow up as much as you can to make sure you actually stay on top of that, and halt all work. Don't be working if they're not paying for that time. All right, so how to scale your freelance business. First off, increase your rates. Easiest way to make more money is to increase your rates. Follow one simple rule. If you sign on a project at a given rate, increase it the next time. So if you charge $1,500 for a project the first time, try charging $1,800 the next time. Increase your hourly rate. If you're charging $50 an hour, try charging $75 an hour for the next client. And if you're increasing rates to your existing clients, communicate this early on and explain why the rate is increasing. Make sure you're providing some kind of value to the client so they're not paying more for the same thing. Make sure it shows that you're providing some kind of benefit to the client. Next, consider diversifying your income streams. Create digital products. I wrote an ebook on freelancing. That's an example of one. You can take on consulting gigs, so walking somebody through your area of expertise, how to start building iOS apps, whatever it might be. And also find ways to offer value for free. This seems kind of weird as far as talking about diversifying your income streams, but this is where I like talking on podcasts or doing video interviews with other people. Basically, it provides more, I hate the word, more exposure to your work and can lead to more clients as well, especially when you're selling digital products. And lastly, productize your work. Productize services have a fixed price and a fixed scope. So if you're selling a result instead of selling how long it takes you to actually get to that result. An example of this is we have an SEO audit. So instead of just charging hourly for how long it might take us to do an SEO audit, we provided a document that's templated. We know exactly how long, it doesn't matter how long it takes us. Now I can knock it out in like an hour or two and still charge $2,000 for it. Increased efficiency, being that I can speed up my time doing this, means higher profits, of course. So one final question for you. Are you ready to start your freelancing journey? I know I blew through a lot of things in the past 30 minutes. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me at Kelly at Start Freelancing Today, or check out the website here at startfreelancing.today.